It's only right to begin with the longest winning streak in NFL history, which is currently held by the Patriots at 21 consecutive games. This is taking into account both regular season and playoff wins in a row. With the #1 defense in the league backing up a Tom Brady-led offense, you could only imagine what was possible.
Brady with time, throws complete to the 5, touchdown!
Starting in week number 5 of the 2003 season, New England was unbeatable. After losing to the Redskins the week prior by just 3 points, 20-17, the Patriots didn't lose another game. The season culminated in a 32-29 win against the Panthers in the Super Bowl.
Brady has it, throwing, touchdown! Brady, play fake, throw, touchdown!
Capping off a 15-game winning streak. Even after getting that Super Bowl ring, New England still wasn't satisfied. They picked up right where they left off, winning another 6 games straight to begin the 2004 season. But then the matchup finally came in week number 8 against the 5-1 Steelers in Pittsburgh. Surely Tom Brady could outduel a rookie Ben Roethlisberger, right? Well, to give you an idea of how these two teams stacked up against each other, Pittsburgh had the 11th ranked offense and the #1 defense to finish 2004, while the Patriots ranked 4th in offense and tied for 2nd in defense in points allowed. You knew it was going to be a heavyweight battle when the #1 and #2 defenses faced off, and that's exactly what this was. Tom Brady started off hot on the Patriots' first drive, picking apart the Steelers' defense and leading New England to a field goal. But little did they know, Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers were about to answer with a scoring rampage.
2nd and 6, Roethlisberger pumps, throws long for Burris, and Burris has it, touchdown! Blitz on Brady, and he is picked off, he is intercepted by Townsend, who are running in for the touchdown!
After scoring 24 consecutive points, the Steelers held a commanding 24-3 lead, but one thing is for sure, never want to count out Tom Brady. Heading into the locker room, Pittsburgh was in full control, up 24-10, but they weren't ready to let off the gas. After their defense recovered a fumble, Jerome Bettis found the end zone on a 2-yard run before the teams traded a pair of field goals. With a 34-13 lead heading into the 4th, the Steelers could smell blood in the water. All the defense had to do was hold up.
Brady, Gibbons is open, back in the end zone, did he get the second foot down? Yes!
While they did give up that touchdown to Givens, the Steelers' offense ran the clock down beautifully, finally putting an end to New England's 21-game winning streak. Roethlisberger played a mistake-free game of football, finishing with 196 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, while Deuce Staley and Jerome Bettis held it down in the rushing game. Staley finished with 125 yards, while Bettis finished with 65 and a touchdown. As for the Steelers' defense, they were ranked #1 for a reason, as they finished this game with 4 takeaways, picking off Brady twice and recovering 2 fumbles. Unfortunately for Pittsburgh, New England had the last laugh as they beat the Steelers in the AFC Championship game that year and also went on to win the Super Bowl in back-to-back seasons. Onto our second longest win streak, the Green Bay Packers in 2010 and 2011 won 19 straight games. Led by a young Aaron Rodgers, this team was incredibly hard to stop. The receiving room in 2010 was filled with talent that you should definitely recognize. Names such as Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, Donald Driver, and James Jones. As for their leading rusher, though, I wouldn't be surprised if people didn't remember Brandon Jackson. This was also a case where the Packers boasted the second best defense in the entire league. Starting in week 16, Green Bay was playing on another level. They beat the crap out of the Giants 45-17 and didn't look back after that. Now, the majority of their wins from the streak didn't come in this season, but that doesn't mean the wins were any less important. Actually, they were more important because they won throughout the playoffs. The wild card round, they took care of the Eagles 21-16.
NFL quarterbacks this year. There he is again, slings for the touchdown.
Then the Falcons 48-21.
A 4-man rush, Rodgers for James Jones. Jones fought for it, touchdown.
the Bears 21-14.
2 plays later, first down. It's the first career touchdown.
Before finally meeting up with the Steelers in the Super Bowl, on the back of an Aaron Rodgers 3-touchdown game.
And the Packers trying to turn that pick into points, and they do. What a throw from Rodgers. Rodgers to Greg Jennings. Touchdown, Green Bay.
The Packers were back in possession of the Lombardi Trophy. Fast forward to 2011 now. Green Bay was in a great position to complete a perfect season as they started off the year 13-0. With a lot of the same weapons from their Super Bowl team still on the roster, it looked like a real possibility. But the Chiefs had other plans in Week 15. Coming into this game, Kansas City was just 5-8, so it's safe to say that nobody was really too worried about the Packers losing this one. But in the NFL, you always have to be on top of your game or else disasters can happen. The disaster in this case was Green Bay's offense. They didn't put up a single point in the first half, but their defense kept them right in the game, only allowing 2 field goals heading into halftime. After finding Donald Driver for a 2-yard score early in the second half, it looked like the Packers were about to start rolling. That was far from the case. Kansas City piled on 2 more field goals before finally scoring their first touchdown of the game and leading the Packers 19-7 with just minutes remaining. By the time Green Bay scored their second touchdown, it was too late. They were upset 19-14 by a team they weren't even worried about heading into the day. Chiefs defense deserves a ton of credit for that win, holding Rodgers to just 235 yards and less than a 50% completion percentage. Derek Johnson and Tamba Hali took full control of this defense. Hali finished with 3 sacks while Johnson finished with 7 combined tackles. That ended up being the only loss the Packers suffered all regular season. For the next longest winning streak, we have to go way back in time, almost 100 years, to the 1933 and 34 seasons, where the Chicago Bears won 18 games straight. As you can imagine, footage is probably going to be hard to come by from those exact seasons, but we're going to do our best to come up with something. At this point in time, the NFL only consisted of 10 teams in 2 divisions, the East and the West. Each team played 13 regular season games, followed by 1 championship game that was reserved for the teams with the 2 best regular season records. The Bears' winning streak started towards the tail end of the 1933 season in week number 11. In the 3 games prior to this, they only put up a combined 3 points. So this was a turnaround that was much needed. After winning their last 4 regular season games, Chicago found themselves up against the New York Giants in the championship. The Bears were down 21-16 in the 4th quarter before Bill Carr caught a 19-yard touchdown pass to give them the lead. They held on to win that game at 23-21 and carried that momentum all the way through the 1934 season. In 1934, the Bears were completely dominant. Gone were the days where they put up 3 combined points in 3 games. Now, they were putting up nearly 20 points on almost everybody. Beatty Feathers was the main contributor on the team, rushing for over 1,000 yards and scoring 9 total touchdowns. At the end of the regular season, Chicago was 13-0, back in the championship game against the New York Giants once again. This time around, things were different though. Instead of the Bears reclaiming the lead in the 4th quarter, it was the Giants. New York scored 4 straight touchdowns in the 4th quarter, winning the game 30-13, getting a championship victory under their belts and ending the Bears' 18-game win streak. I wouldn't feel too bad for the Bears though, because they are right back on our list yet again. Surprisingly, they tied their own streak of 18 consecutive wins. This time, they did it in the 1941 and 42 seasons. Led by the same head coach as in 1933 and 34, George Halas had this team ready to compete for another championship. Their only loss in the 1941 regular season came against the Packers, but after that, they were unstoppable. Chicago put up over 34 points per game, and the other teams just could not keep up with that pace. This time in the postseason, they had 2 playoff matchups to get by, a divisional round and then the championship. In the divisional round, they made quick work of the Packers in their rematch, 33-14, and I would try to make it dramatic and say the championship game was close, but it just wasn't. They dismantled the Giants 37-9. Oh, and did I forget to tell you that literally the entire Bears roster that year made the Pro Bowl. Every single player. On to the 1942 season now. The Bears almost mirrored what they did in 1934. They once again went undefeated in the regular season, and both their offense and defense ranked number 1 in the league. But that doesn't mean anything if the offense falls flat in the championship game. That's exactly what happened against the Redskins. Their only points came on a fumble recovery recovery by the defense. After falling 14-6, Chicago's winning streak stalled at 18 once again. Now we have perhaps the most well-known win streak in all of NFL history, the perfect season. Of course, I'm referring to the 1972 Miami Dolphins, followed up by one more win in the 1973 season. Led by head coach Don Shula, this team was really something special. Miami had the best backfield in the league, equipped with two 1,000-yard rushers in Larry Zonka and Mercury Morris. At quarterback, Bob Greasy started off the season hot, winning all of his starts. But 38-year-old Earl Morrall had to pick up where he left off after Greasy fractured his leg and dislocated his ankle against the Chargers. The Dolphins didn't miss a beat though, even without their starting quarterback. Their offense, defense, and special teams were all in sync, and they played their part in putting together the perfect season. After going 14-0 in the regular season, the Dolphins faced off against the Browns in round number 1 of the playoffs. Trailing 14-13 with just over 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Miami was going to need to score and do it fast. They did exactly that, with an 8-yard rushing touchdown from Jim Kick to seal their ticket to the AFC Championship game against the Steelers. In the game against Pittsburgh when they were trailing, the Dolphins ran a ballsy fake punt that changed the whole momentum of the game in their favor. This led to them winning 21-17, and they moved on to the Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl against the Redskins, Miami's defense completely took over. They intercepted Washington's quarterback Billy Kilmer 3 times and held their running back Larry Brown in check during their 14-7 win.
Kilmer down the middle, overshoots his mark. Jake Scott has the ball. Scott to the 50. Kilmer's quick flip, intercepted. Bonacani at the 50, 45-40. Bonacani, 32 years old. Gives the ball to Larry Brown. He's to the 30-yard line.
Now that the perfect season was complete, I think it's safe to say that a sigh of relief filled the Dolphins' locker room. There must have been less pressure on them after winning that Super Bowl, and they let their guard down in Week 2 of the 1973 season. In this matchup against the Oakland Raiders, the offense completely stalled. Miami didn't put up any points until the fourth quarter, but what made this loss sting even more is that their defense didn't allow a single touchdown. Raiders kicker George Blanda was the main reason Miami lost this game 12-7, as he hit 4 field goals. This caused the Dolphins' 18-game win streak to finally come to an end. On a positive note for the Dolphins, they went on to win the Super Bowl yet again in that 1973 season, beating the Vikings 24-7. Next up, we have yet another 18-game winning streak. This one held by the 1989 and 1990 San Francisco 49ers. This team was led by Hall of Fame quarterback Joe Montana, backed up by Hall of Fame quarterback Steve Young, and they had the best wide receiver of all time, Hall of Famer Jerry Rice. Not to mention the 49ers also had a 1,000-yard rusher in Roger Craig and a top 3 defense in the league. This team was one of the best we have ever seen, and they certainly showed it during the 1989 season. San Francisco only lost 2 games that year, in week number 4 to the Rams by just 1 point, and in week number 11 to the Packers by just 4 points. But from week 12 on, they were unstoppable. In the divisional round of the playoffs, the 49ers smoked the Vikings 41-13.
That looks like the catch.
Smoked the Rams in the NFC Championship game 30-3.
Here's Montana back again. Open is Brent Jones. Touchdown, San Francisco.
And then annihilated John Elway and the Broncos 55-10 in the Super Bowl.
Montana looked to Rattler, hits Rice. Rice scores for San Francisco.
After a season for the history books, San Francisco picked up right where they left off in 1990. They won 10 straight games to start the year, but then faced off against the Rams once again in Week 12. This time, the Rams came into the game just 3-7, but they were still upset about the playoff beatdown that they took the year prior. So this game meant a lot to them. Los Angeles got off to a hot start in this one, taking a 14-0 lead off a pair of Cleveland Gary touchdowns. Now, it's safe to say this wasn't one of Joe Montana's best games as he threw 3 interceptions, but he still had them in a position to strike late in the third quarter as the Niners found themselves down just 4 points. Unfortunately, Cleveland Gary ran it in from 1 yard out for his 3rd touchdown of the day, sealing the 49ers' fate and handing them their first loss in just over a year. After that game was over, the Niners only lost 1 more time up until the playoffs. They then fell short of a repeat, losing to the New York Giants 15-13 in the NFC Championship game, putting an end to another incredible season. While John Elway and the Broncos were beat down during those 1989 playoffs, the same could not be said about 1997 and 1998 when Denver went on an 18-game winning streak of their own. Unlike a lot of these teams that we've covered so far, Denver waited almost until the playoffs in the 1989 season to start up their win streak. After suffering a loss in Week 16 to the 49ers, the Broncos destroyed the Chargers and had their sights set on the playoffs. With an incredible roster featuring Hall of Fame running back Terrell Davis, Hall of Fame tight end Shannon Sharpe, three-time Pro Bowler Rod Smith, and of course, like we already mentioned, Hall of Fame quarterback John Elway, teams were not excited to face them in the postseason. In the wildcard round, they slaughtered the Jaguars 42-17, thanks to Terrell Davis's 184 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. The divisional round was much closer, but they squeaked out a 14-10 win against the Chiefs, with the help of a fourth quarter Terrell Davis touchdown and the defense stepping up huge. Denver once again leaned on Davis in the AFC Championship game as they took down the Steelers 24-21, and they were on to the Super Bowl. In a star-studded matchup between Brett Favre and John Elway, the Broncos came out on top thanks once again to another Terrell Davis massive day. He ran for 157 yards and scored 3 rushing touchdowns in their 31-24 win. As for 1998 goes, it was more the same from Davis and the Broncos. They were just cruising past team after team until they finally met up with the New York Giants in Week 15. The Giants came into this game with a 5-8 record, and everybody figured they would be no match for the undefeated 13-0 Broncos. Sadly for Denver, that was not the case. While this game was choppy for the most part and Elway didn't throw a single touchdown pass, the Broncos were still in control late in the fourth thanks to none other than Terrell Davis's 147 yards on the ground. Down by 3 points with under 2 minutes left to go, the Giants started their final drive from their own 14-yard line with 0 timeouts. Kent Graham managed to lead them all the way down the field and hit Amani Toomer with under a minute to go for a 37-yard touchdown, giving New York the lead 20-16. After making their way into Giants territory during their next possession, the clock got the best of the Broncos and they ran out of time, finally ending their 18-game win streak and the New York Giants ending another perfect season. Now, I'm sure the Broncos were upset at the time, but they were much less upset once they won their second consecutive Super Bowl against the Falcons that same season. Now, if you thought the Giants were done ruining winning streaks, you were wrong, because they are about to claim yet another victim. The Patriots once again make a return to this list for their efforts in the 2007 and 2008 seasons, where they won 18 straight games as well. This was supposed to be the second perfect season in NFL history, before they were shocked in the Super Bowl. Now, this Patriots team was even more stacked, talent-wise, than their 2003 and 2004 team that currently holds the record for the longest win streak in NFL history. In 2007, Tom Brady won MVP, Randy Moss caught an unbelievable 23 touchdowns and had nearly 1,500 receiving yards.
To the end zone, touchdown, it's Moss. 3rd and 7, down the field, it's Welker. And a walk-in touchdown for the Patriots.
Add on Wes Welker's 1,000-yard season, and New England having a top 5 defense, this team was scary. And they proved to be scary throughout the entire regular season, making quick work of most teams led by their #1 scoring offense. One of their few close games, though, during the regular season actually came in Week 17 against those Giants.
And Brady will throw for Moss. Touchdown, Patriots. Manning. This time dropped in the backfield.
The Patriots beat them by just 3 points on the road, but little did they know they would meet again a little over a month later in the Super Bowl. After taking care of the Jaguars in the divisional round and the Chargers in the AFC Championship game, the day finally came. Patriots vs. Giants in Super Bowl 42. Coming into this game, New England was 12-point favorites. The Giants were lucky to even be in the playoffs after coming in second in their own division, let alone making it all the way to the Super Bowl. That didn't stop them from giving it all they had, though. This game was a defensive battle. Heading into the third quarter, the score was just 7-3. And after a quick strike from Eli Manning to David Tyree early in the fourth, the Giants found themselves in a spot to do the impossible, leading 10-7. But the Patriots weren't done yet. Brady hit his favorite target, Randy Moss, for a 6-yard touchdown with just under 3 minutes left.
Brady throws, Moss, touchdown!
And it looked like New England was about to pull off the perfect season. Then, the David Tyree helmet catch happened.
On his feet, airs it out down the field. It is caught by Tyree.
Followed by a 13-yard touchdown pass to Plaxico Burress with under a minute left.
Manning lobs it, Burress alone, touchdown New York.
The Giants really did pull off the impossible, upsetting the Patriots, not only ruining their perfect season, but also ruining their Super Bowl victory. Well, finally, after covering 6 different occasions where a team has won 18 straight games, we move on to the 9th longest win streak in NFL history, which is held by the Oakland Raiders during the 1976 and 77 seasons, when they won 17 in a row. Coached by the legendary John Madden, the Raiders team wasn't like the others on this list. Their offense had some studs in Cliff Branch and Dave Casper. They were the only ones who didn't have a defense that ranked inside the top 10. Instead, when their opponents scored a lot of points, they would just simply score more. After receiving a brutal wake-up call in week number 4 against the Patriots, where they were blown out 48-17 in the 1976 season, the Raiders decided that was not going to happen again for the rest of the year. Throughout the rest of the regular season, they did have some close games, but they were never on the losing end of them. Once the playoffs rolled around, they got their chance at revenge against those Patriots in the divisional round. After finding themselves down 21-10 heading into the fourth, the Raiders finally decided enough was enough. Oakland scored 2 straight touchdowns when it counted most, and their defense locked down New England, allowing them to escape with a 24-21 win. In the AFC Championship game, they manhandled the Steelers 24-7 and did the same to the Vikings in the Super Bowl 32-14. Now, 1977 wasn't much different in terms of how this Oakland team operated. They once again didn't have the best defense in the world, but they sure knew how to put up points. That is, until it finally caught up with them in Week 5 against the Broncos. After getting on the board early with a Dave Casper touchdown, the Raiders' offense was completely shut down. Along with this, their defense couldn't stop Denver as they scored 30 unanswered points. This 30-7 loss was brutal for the Raiders, ending their 17-game win streak, and also showing just what can happen when your offense falls flat and your defense does not show up.